Welcome back to Get Cozy with Josie. I'm your host, Josie Lentner, and I'm here with a very special guest, my really good friend, Odyssey. Stephalie, how do you want to be addressed today?
I want it to be natural for you. So,
You see, I always call you Steph. That's how I met you, but you recently went through a rebrand. And I
oh.
really want to know more about that because I never got to ask you, so I saved it for when you came on here.
Ooh. Well, first of all, thank you for having me.
Of
Like,
course.
I'm honored to be sitting here, and I love to witness you. Like, when you make up your mind, you like there's no stopping you, and it's just beautiful to witness. Thank you. But in regards to my name, I love etymology,
Ooh.
the study of words. And my given name is Stephalie, and it's spelled Steph a lie, like quite literally. And throughout my spiritual journey, I've always loved to be honest, so much so that I won't disclose certain things unless you ask me directly to avoid quote unquote lying. And then I would notice that I would attract liars, not often, but enough for me to notice. And through my soul searching, I realized it was because I was lying to myself. And then to know that my name carries that. Like in the sixth grade, I'll never forget my art professor. He was like, "Oh, Stephalie is here." And like, it was like a mock of the classroom. And like, I kind of left that pain there, like to be called that. But however, as much as I like pondered on my name and like valued etymology, the study of words, I recognized that the term lie was in my name. And if I didn't want to lie to myself anymore, it just made sense to me to just change my name. And it took me years to come up with a name. Odyssey came to me, and it just seemed to make sense to me in the sense of like, it represents me. Like, I'm always on a spiritual journey. I'm super adamant and enthusiastic about guiding people and inspiring them to partake in their spiritual path. So it makes sense.
I
Now, as of for
absolutely love
you,
that.
call me whatever you want. I'm not pressed.
I absolutely, I love that. Like, I think that's beautiful how you're able to take the power, like take your own power into your hands and rename yourself. And even like your journey through spirituality, for those of you who don't know, like Stephanie is, or Odyssey, is a amazing, phenomenal astrologer, spiritual healer, or sound healer, and somewhat of a life coach. And you actually helped me a lot when I was really getting into spirituality and just understanding myself. Like you played a big role in that. And I'm so grateful to you for that. Cause I mean, we connected like what, like 3, almost 4 years ago, but we reconnected during Ramadan because we were both doing Ramadan. Neither of us were Muslim at the time. And we connected over doing that together. And then it just spiraled into the most like beautiful friendship, and now I consider you to be like a sister to me.
Yes, yes, yes. I agree. Like, it's interesting how, because we did Ramadan to learn and partake in more discipline, right?
Yeah.
So it was such a challenging journey, and to like meet someone that was also doing it for the same reasons, not religious purposes. That was it meant a lot to me. And it's interesting that you're saying that I helped you when I felt like you were helping me through that. So it's very beautiful that we could reciprocate one another in such a beautiful way.
Well, that's actually something like that made me think of alignment. Like ever since I've met you, you've made me think so much deeper into why things happen, why you meet people, why you align with certain people, why energy matters. And I'll notice when we align and when we don't align, right? And then when we start to align with each other again. And it's such a beautiful thing because as I like do try to do work on myself and I enter this new phase of reaching my higher self, you've been like the biggest. We've both been such an amazing help to each other, and that's why I absolutely adore you.
Absolutely. It's like, it's beautiful because, like, I've been helping you spiritually and you've been helping me with my confidence. And although that could be seen as separate things, it's like, it's all one in a sense. Because along your self work and spiritual journey, because spiritual journey doesn't necessarily mean religious or spirituality, it's really the self work, the shadow work, the self actualization. And a big part of my journey has been my confidence and like You're such a big role. And like even me sitting here today having this conversation on camera.
But I love seeing you on camera. Like I just went to your event. You just did this event. You partook in an event that like a manifestation event last weekend, and you said you weren't the best speaker, but I think you're a phenomenal speaker.
Yeah. And that goes with the, working through the insecurities. So it's like going back to like even that being there, our friendship has definitely helped me allow myself to be in that position. So
I would say
thank
our
you.
friendship definitely has helped me with just being more in tune with with my emotions, allowing my emotions to flow freely, and just you like make me think about myself in different ways. Like you kind of like check me in a way. Because when I'm thinking I'm just like having fun or doing this or like just down, you kind of remind me like to look more within and try to think. You remind me when I'm off center. You're just like, okay, this doesn't really sound like you. What do you think is going on that's triggering that?
Yeah. We're great reflections because, like, because of what I do, a lot of people don't call me out. And, like, I don't know everything. Like, I'm also a spiritual being having a human experience. And you're one of the few people in my life that, like, you call me out on my BS. You call me out on what I can't see. And I love that so much.
Oh,
Like, challenge me.
sometimes
Yes.
I feel bad because I feel like I am the call out friend, and sometimes it can come off as like, I don't know, I feel like sometimes people see it in like a negative way, but I can't lie. Like, I'm not good at seeing something and seeing that it can be like a hindrance or see you being like an emotional or physical like danger to yourself and me not say something.
Right, right, right. Exactly. It's one of those things is like, I'm going to ask for forgiveness, not permission. So
Yeah.
if it bothered you, we'll cross that bridge later.
100%. And I also say all the time, like, I don't know everything. This is just my like assumption and interpretation, but I'm so open-minded that whatever I'm gonna believe you because it's your experience that you're living. So if something's off, like, and usually like if something doesn't align with what we perceive it to be, you'll tell me.
Right.
But it's just like I absolutely admire the fact that you're confident in who you are, even though like you feel like you have to work on your confidence. The fact that you're walking around Miami, like doing sound healing, like life coaching, astrocartography, like how'd you even get into that?
Which one?
No, okay, what first started your spiritual journey?
My spiritual journey. I want to say I had an anxiety attack in like 2015 when I was hanging out with my friends because I couldn't remember something. In that anxiety attack, I started sweating and like I just got very anxious and just very angry. And then like an instant, I was regular and calm. And I remember noticing that in myself and I was just like, something's wrong with me. Like this is not okay. And I sought out therapy. And my therapist, I'll never forget, she asked me, what does happiness mean to you? And I responded, my siblings and my family being happy is happiness to me. And she's like, no, that's not thinking about yourself. So I invite you to go home and really ponder on that question. And I feel like that question like just opened up a whole new world for me. But it didn't go deeper until one of my soulmates passed away. And like they say death is a gateway. And his death or transition really like led me to silence, led me to really just soul search because it didn't make sense to me that he passed over. But on top of that, it kind of all comes together. In my juvenile justice class, I learned that we become a product of what we are exposed to and what we consume. And me being a Dominican American woman born in New York and and starting my foundation of life there, it's like I was exposed to a lot of like vulgarness. I was exposed to just a lot of things that made me realize I don't really know if I'm who I am because of what I've been exposed to or because it's actually me. And that led me to turn music off. And by turning music off and also grieving at the same time, it's like I went inside and I started questioning and that just started a rabbit hole.
Curiosity is a beautiful thing.
It is. And I've always been a person to ask questions. And like for example, that moment I experienced where I had the anxiety attack, like really digging into anxiety attacks led me to reading, and like it's just, I love questions.
Oh, that's amazing because you're here. I'm going to ask you so many questions. I
Let's
love
go.
to pick your brain. So, okay. So that's essentially what opened like your interest in spirituality and introspection, right? So that's one thing, but how did we get to sound healing? How did we get to astrology?
Well, how did we get there? I, when I moved out on my own, because I grew up in a full house, I didn't have my own bedroom until I was like 19. So,
I didn't have my own bedroom until I was 23. And
all
I
right.
shared the bed with my mom for like, I shared the bed with my mom, I shared the bed with my cousin. I didn't have my own room for like a very long, long time.
So I'm sure you understand this.
Yeah.
And it's like I grew up many times either sharing a room with my siblings or sharing a room with my grandmother and my siblings. So all that to say is like I was raised to look out for other people. So now I'm finally 19 living on my own, and it's like I have more time to notice my own behavior. So the first action was that anxiety attack, but then it was things like I wouldn't lock my door at night, which my grandmother was responsible for that. So it's like, or made herself responsible for that. So it's like I wouldn't lock the door, I wouldn't flush the toilet, and I would do little things that made me ask more questions. And when I went to the doctor about it, I was told that I had ADD. And I'm now 23 years old being diagnosed with ADD, and the doctor he prescribed me Adderall. And he told me that for the rest of my life, I would have to take Adderall to function correctly in society. And remember, I love questions.
Yeah.
That did not make sense to me. So I started digging, and like my life became eating, sleeping, everything, research on ADD. And through that journey, I discovered a book called The Highly Sensitive Person. And that book is like what cracked me open in the sense of like tapping into spirituality and like your senses and energy.
Yeah.
And being exposed to that led me to discover yoga. And I'm like, I want to teach yoga. So I take this yoga teacher study, and they expose you to a lot of different healing modalities. They exposed me to sound healing, and I will never forget that day. Like, I told myself, I came to yoga teacher training to discover sound healing. Like, I quit yoga and I focused on sound healing. And then the astrology aspect, I was born an astrologer because, you know,
Ooh.
Walter Mercado, the Latin astrologer that was on TV, like my family was watching him before I was even born. Like he would share the horoscope per sign. So like I grew up watching that. So I've always had an interest in astrology. It was just a matter of recognizing I wanted to offer that, and recognizing that I was worthy of creating a business as an astrologer and sound healer, which is like bizarre to a Dominican, you know?
I mean, it's more bizarre to a Haitian because we don't have like a Haitian astrologer on TV.
Right,
And
right.
I'm super into like astrology, and I'm always like telling like people in my family and my friends like about themselves and like reading their charts. So it was always so interesting when I met you and I actually had someone that I could be like, what does this mean? And I always
Right.
like bug you with like astrology questions, and it's
And I
like the
love
best
it.
thing.
Yeah, so it's like it all just came together. And I'm a criminal justice major, by the way.
Yeah.
So in my mind, my life was going to be being a police officer to then become an undercover detective, which was my ultimate goal.
Ooh.
Yeah, and then I had this whole vision, police officer, undercover detective, and then criminal profiler,
Oh.
right? And then my last semester, I learned like, I don't think I'll be happy in this world. And I had to take time off to really tune into myself, like, all right, well, if I'm not gonna be happy there, what am I doing? And sound healing really chose me because I would just use it for myself. And then like as people saw me doing it, and as I found the benefits of it, I became eager to share it. And then it was just
Yeah.
like, I don't even have to seek for opportunities to share it. Like they will come to me. And I just added astrology because I felt like it and it just made sense.
I mean, I love your sound healing sessions. I've done
Thank you.
like 3 or 4 of them in myself. I've gone to maybe like, I can't even count how many like group sound healing sessions. And it genuinely is like just so healing. Like if you haven't like done sound healing, like you absolutely have to. It's amazing for just like mental clarity.
You know, there's a Japanese scientist. His name is Masaru Emoto, I believe. He proved through his work that water retains memory.
Yes, I've heard
And
that.
yeah, I think they teach about this, but they don't connect it to spirituality. So what, our body is 70% water, our brain is 90% water. Now, if it retains memory, that means that everything we see, hear, and consume through our senses is storing in our body. Like one of my favorite examples is like wherever the listener or wherever we're feeling this conversation in this moment is where our body is storing it. Like I feel it right now in my solar plexus as I mentioned it.
Ooh.
And now what the vibrations of the instruments do is like clear it out. So a lot of times we have mental fog, we have pain in our body, confusion or anything, not because it's ours, but because something we saw recorded in our body. So now we're enacting that,
Oh,
which is
so from
interesting.
like the sound healing, the vibrations and the frequency from that sound healing is so deep that it's able to penetrate those areas in your body on a like a molecular level and help push that out.
Right, right. Sound healing, it goes to places that we can't even fathom. Like we could sit here right now and play sound healing for to open our heart, but we might have like some type of pain in, I don't know, the back of our elbow. The sound could support with that, and that's one of the coolest things about it too, because it's like it's not like antibiotics that only focuses on clearing out the infection. It also works other parts.
It gets to the root of it.
Yeah. And then what makes sound healing different from the music we hear on the radio is the music on the radio has a cadence, it has a rhythm, it's predictable, so your body can't relax as much because it's like anticipating the next step. It's not fully surrendering. Whereas in sound healing, it's very like unpredictable. It's not something staged. It's something that is experienced through feeling, even as a practitioner. So that said is like you don't know what's next. So you have no choice but to surrender. And that's what allows your body to work through this and like work with the vibrations to help you heal.
I think that's why sound healing did a lot for me personally because like you know this, I'm not one to just like surrender. And that's something that like when you met me, I was really focusing hard on just allowing things to flow and stepping more into my femininity. Because although I come off as like extremely feminine and girly, like I am not the most feminine person, especially in regards to like how I work and how I move and how I operate and how I operate in business and even relationships. And I think it was even like honestly in most of my past relationships, like they all made me realize ways that I'm like not the most feminine. And that was something that I wanted to work on, not because of relationships, but like for myself. Like I realized that I was always in a like I'm gonna do it and make it happen without understanding like the divine feminine is the energy of like attracting. It's the
Right.
energy of being. It's the energy of just like waiting and
Receiving.
receiving. And that's something that I didn't realize how much I had a problem with and how much shame I identified with receiving. So I really think sound healing definitely helped me with that to a certain degree.
I love that. It opened you up.
Yeah, it definitely opened me up.
And going back to like nature versus nurture, a lot of things we're taught and we don't know. So the sound healing comes in and like clears these things out, and you
Yeah.
could really see yourself. And you could really feel yourself and really let go of things you didn't even know you had to let go of. And things you don't even know that you let go of because the sound just handled
Just
that.
cleared it out.
Like,
You know what's something that I thought about when you mentioned how music is repetitive and how it's and how you even stop listening to music for a period of time. It made me think about how I consciously started to like stray away from certain types of music because I felt like they were I felt like it was certain songs were negative. I felt like certain songs were perpetuating like negative ideas of love, friends, money, career, almost to the point where like I love R&B music. Like I love to sit there and like sing a sad love song, but I almost like start to stray away from it because I start to feel like I'm just perpetuating this energy that I may attract. And that's like your word. One thing I started to learn as I started to just become more in tune with myself is my words are so powerful. Like I will say things and they'll happen.
Well, it's so interesting, and this is a very controversial topic. Like, a lot of people don't believe in spells, but the words that we use, we have to sound them out, which is a spell. So our words do cast certain experiences. And earlier I mentioned etymology, which is the study of words. Now, when you connect the study of words with the power of words, and also water retaining memory, what we're listening to is storing in our body, and it's unconsciously influencing our behavior. So it definitely makes sense that once you became more aware of yourself and you got to connect with the sounds, you're noticing like these sounds don't feel right. I actually don't agree with this, which is so trippy because a lot of the most popular songs have a very like catchy beat that feels good, but then the lyrics are like totally off. And
Yeah,
it makes you
completely
lose
off.
sight of what's actually transpiring. Like we're being programmed.
No, 100%. And that's why it's like it became super important to me to get in control of my own mental programming. Because even if you look at like biblical text, because right now I've been getting more into understanding, like I've been rereading the Christian Bible because I grew up Catholic and I want to better understand my faith, right? So even in those texts, it says like there's power in the tongue. Whenever I was brought up to believe that if something is happening, if something's negative, there's a psalm that you can read, that you can recite, that you can pray, that you can ask God for. And I've noticed that that doesn't just translate in like Christianity, but that follows in every other religion, from Christianity to Islam to Judaism to modern day spirituality. And I started to connect the lines and start to realize that it's all essentially the same message, just being translated to different people.
Yeah. About that.
Please go on.
I try not to get too much into religion. However, I do also believe that essentially they're the same message, and the universe is God.
Yes,
The Most High is God.
is God.
And going
Source
back to
is
words,
God.
I've learned to tailor my audience to the point where like I could speak in a way that's digestible. I don't always have to speak on spirituality or the universe. I could just say God and not
100%.
feel like I'm straying away from my practices because it's all one.
100%. I mean, for me personally, like I don't adhere to a specific religion. I just believe in a God. I believe in a higher power, and I believe that there is also God within me, and that's how I'm able to tap into a certain level of consciousness, right? But I go back and I revisit like Christian texts because I was raised on that. So that's like the most digestible for me. But I also don't associate like a grip to that because I feel like I used to have because of how I grew up, I used to have such a negative connotation. I used to feel like God didn't love me. I used to just feel all these negative things because of all the strict boundaries within like the religion that I was brought up in. And then when I went through my own spirituality, I started to disassociate like these strict religious boundaries from what my association of God is because
Wow.
it's almost like I was taught to like fear God instead of like love God.
I
Or
was
it's like,
atheist.
you're an atheist?
I was
You were?
atheist when I was like 10.
That's a very young age to be an atheist.
Well, when you're told that God will provide everything and God will save you, and I went through so much trauma and I felt like I was a child. So where's God? Why is he not helping me right now? And that strayed me away from believing.
I mean, that's valid. I essentially felt the same way, but where you took it as like, I don't believe in a God, I took it as like, God doesn't love me.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm like, that dude don't exist. I
No,
mean, is it
now
even a dude?
I think God is we're not gonna go there, but God is omnipotent. I also think that God is within all of us.
Well, there is a Bible verse that say
Hmm.
that God made us with a piece of him or something like that.
Yeah, with his own rib, essentially,
Exactly. So,
or a piece of him.
yeah. So what that mean?
But also, the Bible is written by men.
Oh, I was 8 years old thinking, why is everybody believing something a man wrote?
Oh
This is
no.
crazy. This is madness.
This is madness. Well, you know
Yeah.
what's so interesting? Because I'm not gonna lie, I have a very deep interest in, I get the interest in history from my mom, but I've always had an interest in religion and how the world works and like spirituality. And one thing that made me start questioning a lot, especially with the Bible, and I don't disregard the Bible because I think the Bible has a lot, and the Bible, the Torah, like the Quran, I think they all have very important life lessons, and they're all guidelines on like how to best live your life.
Stories.
Stories, exactly. But what made me really question things was when I started to realize like there are so many different versions of one text, at least with the Bible. And then there are so many books that were taken out. And there are so many books that the ones that were taken out, when you actually read them, you find so much more information and they're so interesting. Just like even in the sense where like there are books that talks more about Jesus's life and how much of a rebel he actually was and how influential he was for people. But a lot of the stories that we get in the current text that we read is a lot softer and it only focuses on the key moments of his life. But that's actually like, I would want to read more about Jesus's life because like everything that he did was with peace. Everything that he did was out of love.
Right.
But how did he get there?
How did he get there? I honestly, which this is interesting, like I did take world religion in school, but I don't remember anything.
Oh, yeah.
And like I never read anything because like I mentioned as a kid, oh, I didn't even tell you this part. I was baptized by Mormons.
What? How did we
Right.
get here?
How did we get here? My grandma was raised Catholic, decided to go to a Mormon church, and now I'm 9. And they asked me, did I want to get baptized? And I didn't
You're
know.
just like, yeah.
I just said yes because I liked the person, like as a person, I liked who was supposed to baptize me. I was like, sure. But then at the same time, I'm asking myself these questions. And then shortly after, I find myself not believing. So it's like very early on, I had a hard time believing the text. Not because of what you're saying, because it was switched so much, and that like truly discouraged me from ever reading it. Now I have read parts of the Quran, and that's very beautiful story. And like that's really all I have on that. And maybe I should read more about spirituality, but I don't know.
I
I mean,
mean,
religion.
you're such a reader, and I feel like it'll align with you when it's meant to align with
If
you
it's
to
meant
read
to,
more.
yeah.
Because even for me, like I feel like I had to go through my own in-depth spiritual journey, my own like mind reprogramming and my own like self-concept work to be able to digest religious text in a way that is where I'm not holding it and I'm not having any biases based on how I was raised or the relationship that I had previously with it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Which, because after all, like everything is about is perspective and interpretation. So it's not the Bible itself.
No, it's
Yeah.
how you interpret it to be.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually think that's so interesting where it's like we could all read the same book and have a completely different interpretation of it and different interpretation of stories. So like even like on TikTok, like some of my favorite videos are people like dissecting like religious text because that's also what helped a lot. It was this is how you perceive it, but this is how it could have actually been meant to be perceived.
Which is still the same.
Yeah, it's still the
It's
same.
like,
Tomato, tomato.
yeah. That's so wicked.
No, right?
It's like, how do you move through life like that? Like, this is a truth that we have to accept.
I mean, I think the biggest thing that I learned through just like all of my spiritual journey that I'm still going through, I'm definitely not done with it at all. But
It's a journey, not a destination.
yeah, it's definitely not a destination. I've been really enjoying the journey and just like learning more about myself. But the biggest thing that I've learned is as long as you do everything with love and not out of love, and you focus on living towards your highest self everything's going to work out because I feel as though I truly am at a place where I feel like there's nothing that is being done to me. Everything is being done for me.
Yeah, everything's happening for us, not to us. I'm curious though, what started your spiritual path?
Um, what really started it, to be completely honest, is like honestly throughout my entire life, I've always had a lot of, I don't want to say I've had a lot of hardships because everything I've ever went through, I'm very grateful for it. It made me the person that I am, and I don't regret anything I've ever gone through. But because of everything that I had to go through throughout my life, it made me grow up at a young age and made me become more understanding of people. So I've always been so understanding of people to the point that I could be over understanding. I've always been very introspective and I'm a fixer. I feel like because I grew up with a lot of chaos happening around me, I tried to fix it in any way that I could. And my biggest way of fixing that was to make myself as perfect as possible. And through that, I kind of got there, but then I started to notice that like no matter how perfect I could be, everything could still crumble around me. And when that happened, like for example, I dated a guy for 5 years. I thought we were gonna get married. I thought that was exactly what I wanted, and then I realized that that wasn't what I wanted, and that was the biggest culture shock because our relationship, he's an amazing guy. His family's amazing. I still have love for him. I wish him all the best. I only speak highly of him because, and I think that he deserves to be with whoever his person is. But that was definitely a culture shock for me because I was just like, I worked so hard at this. This is perfect. Why am I not happy? Why am I not where I need to be? And when I started to realize that my perception of what is perfect, it wasn't going to make me happy, I started to look more within. And I started to spend a lot of time by myself. And I started to do just a lot of more introspection. And then I dated another guy, and he was super into spirituality of his own sense, and more in the sense of like he was very into mindfulness. And through that relationship, it taught me to be more mindful. And then when that relationship ended, I took a lot of those teachings and I implemented them more into my life. And then I started to notice that, like, and also on the other side of that, I've always like I'm someone where it's like, I just love people for who they are. So like I've had friends that are like psychic. I've had friends that are into astrology. So it kind of was like I was getting there anyways.
It's like you were picking up the
I was
gems.
picking up at it, and then as I was going through my journey, then I met you, and then you opened like a giant door to things, and you just like fed my curiosity in a very like safe way, and through just like different books and through different videos and getting into like law of assumption and just finding out what I wanted to believe, not what other people told me to believe, choosing what I wanted to believe and building spirituality around me led me to realize how much of a conscious creator that I am. And made me get into things like quantum physics and made me get into law of assumption and self-concept. I realized that I had a super negative self-concept. I realized that your thoughts truly create your reality, but your thoughts do not control you. So when I started to realize that I have control of my thoughts, when my thoughts come into my mind, it's not for me to absorb them, it's for me to observe them. I started to realize what I actually believed to be true and what I didn't. And I'm saying all this to say that like it's just been one big journey to get to where I am going, but I'm grateful for every step, and you've definitely played a very, very large role in that.
I love that.
I love it
If I
too.
don't do that, I'm not serving my purpose. So I love to hear that I'm doing it. Like, there's one thing for me to feel like I'm doing it, but to like hear that back. Thank you. It's so interesting because a lot of us think that spirituality looks a certain way, but everything you described is literally like just getting to know yourself and
Yeah,
really like honing in on what's yours, what's not yours, holding yourself accountable. So it's really nice that you've been able to really look at yourself.
it really made me like start to appreciate things about myself that because I would always like exhibit certain qualities about myself, but I would exhibit them like with fear, right?
Right.
Like I would love unconditionally, but I would still hold fear with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it made me realize that like I am a very intuitive person.
Mm-hmm.
I have a very strong gut. I
Mm-hmm.
am an extremely vulnerable person.
Mm-hmm.
And these are not things to be looked at negatively. These are things, these are
To
tools, these are
embrace.
God-given tools that
Mm-hmm.
I can use from to help build discernment, to help others. And I truly believe that one of the biggest things that I'm here to do is to pour love into others.
You have such a big heart.
You think I
And
have a big
like,
heart?
yes, you do. I'm so grateful. You know, something I've noticed since I moved to Miami, individuals who identify as Haitian, they're very like selective and protective of who they choose to open up to. And and I've noticed it in them more than anyone else any other culture I've met in my life.
Because we're very, like, we grew up very fearful. Like, I grew up being told, it doesn't matter if it was like my best friends. Don't trust your friends. The only
Right.
people you trust is me. Do not trust the cops. Do
Right.
not trust your friends. Don't trust your teachers. It's only me and our house and family, and that's it. And even
That's
when it
it.
comes to family, don't trust your own family. That's what I was
Exactly.
grown up hearing.
Mm-hmm.
So when
Same.
you hear all of that, and then you go out into the world, and everyone else isn't taught the same thing, of course you don't know how to like
Yes.
be open. And that's where I would like be the weird one. I would be the one that's like, but I want friends and I love people and
I want to talk.
I want to talk and I don't care to like share like whatever is going on in my personal life because everyone, no,
Right.
I don't have ill intention, so no one else has ill intention. And then I got burned a couple times by doing that.
Right.
But eventually I got my own discernment. But no, what you're saying is correct. It's
Yeah.
something I noticed.
Right. And I share that because I take pride on showing up, doing sound healing, talking about astrology, doing my inner work, and practicing what I preach. Because, you know, there's one thing to understand something theoretically, but there's another one to understand it in practice. And like my spiritual journey has been that. I have a lot of knowledge I get theoretically, and through experiences, I'm putting them into practice. So I do my best to practice what I preach. And I'm saying this to say I take pride on doing this because I recognize that our people are protective of what we receive. So for us to be receptive to this information, we need to receive it from people that look like us, from people that we feel like we can trust. So I wouldn't be surprised that this this door you say I open comes also from that reflection. Like you feel comfortable to open up because of our, you know, coming from the same land. Because like, yes, right now they're separated, but in theory we're the same land. I feel like that supported that. So like it makes me really proud because this is literally the work I'm doing. Like I want more of us to open ourselves up to alternative healing modalities and also to do the work, the self work.
100%. I feel like, especially in my culture, like things like sound healing and
What is
like
that?
yoga, like these are
Huh?
all things where it's like, why are you doing this? Like this
Like,
is weird.
stop.
Yeah, literally stop. Like my mom will be like, be careful what you're doing. I'm like, I'm not doing anything. Like we're not like reciting any. I'm literally just
But affirmations are reciting things.
yeah. But
Not
that's
re-
the thing is like I'm not over here like made this happen to this and da 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 da. I'm literally just saying like I am powerful, I am safe, secure, I'm loved and adored. I
Right.
am one of one. I am a conscious creator. I deserve to be here. I deserve love. I deserve happiness. I am like et cetera, et cetera. And I could just ramble and ramble and ramble about all these things that I believe in myself. But I didn't believe that maybe like a year and a half ago.
But also going back to like culturally, we say a lot of things without thinking.
We do.
Like, I can't even think of something in this moment that I would find to fit the setting, but like we speak very harshly to one another as a norm. So what happens is like calling ourselves stupid and affirming these things and oh that we're idiots, we are dirty, whatever the case may be. We're affirming that like by somebody calling you that and labeling that. Now you're owning that, so you're living by that. So it's like a lot of us even culturally don't recognize that that alone is reciting something negative.
It
Like,
is.
so it's like It's very interesting. I don't know.
It is. I've made a conscious effort now to really try to not say things like that towards myself and towards other people. And through that, it's made me pay attention to what might be the root of what's causing someone to do this. And that doesn't mean that I'm being over understanding because I still don't allow things to
Right.
happen, but I will understand why they happened.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's all going back to perspective.
Yeah,
It's like all perspective, and it's so wicked. I'm happy that we live in an age where we could explore these options and
I
we're not
know.
getting hung.
Literally, it's not the same on witch trials thing.
Yeah, and all going back to Suez, things is like it's like a gun. The gun is not the problem. It's the person behind the gun. So everything that we do, like anything else, could be misused. So it's like don't judge the practice. If you're
Judge the
gonna judge
practitioner.
anything, judge the practitioner. Yeah.
Mm.
Because I bet you if I said I had a gun, people won't feel threatened because they know who I am. But if a predator had a gun, everybody's scared. So it's like it's not the gun. So
That's an interesting way to say it. No, I would agree with you with that.
yeah. So it's like I feel like a lot of us get fixated on the practice itself and we're not looking at the person.
Do
Like,
you ever feel like people learn about what you do or they look at what you do and they're like, "Oh, like that's woo woo. Like that's
to be honest with you, I've created a world where we have to align for it to make sense. So in my world, people are receptive to this. People are also on a spiritual journey. So I don't have much experience with anyone telling me that what I do is woo-woo. They might speak on it outside of me or might notice me from afar or heard about me and say that, but to me directly, I don't have that much experience. And my family don't count because
yeah."
that's what I'm healing. I'm healing. I'm doing the work for us. So to them, it's like weird, but yeah.
But is it weird or are you just being authentic to yourself?
Oh, I'm being authentic. I know that. I've learned not to take them personal. And I've learned that my family is not my audience. Because for a long time, I wouldn't feel confident to speak on said matters because I could just hear them in the back of my head. Like, here comes Stephalie with her philosophies. ¿Qué ella está hablando? Like, what is she talking about now? Or this and the third. So it's like me hearing them really held me back. It took some time for me to recognize, like, oh, wow, like, I'm not even talking to them.
But
Like,
I love like talking about my philosophies now. Like I talk about them so freely. It almost like it weeds people out,
exactly.
especially men. Like I start talking about like quantum physics and they're like, "Oh God, you think that you create your reality with your words?" What? Okay.
And I
Okay.
think like when you first embark on your spiritual journey and you're really immersing yourself into it, you experience that where it's like now you have to weave out things. And I
Yeah.
think I've reached a place where like I don't even attract men who wouldn't be open to it. I had one experience with one man who identifies as Christian, and it was on some friendly stuff. We flirted a bit, and he was very religious and he wanted to take me to church, and I was
Yeah, like I'll
open-esque.
go to church.
But he was, even though I knew my practices were against his, quote unquote, he was so open. And now he adapts a lot of what he learned from me. He became a client, but he adapted to so much he learned from me. He learned how to not justify it as going against his religion, but utilizing it as a tool to regulate his nervous system and to gain self-awareness. Because using astrology as a spiritual tool or a self-help tool is not worshiping astrology. It's
Definitely
utilizing
not.
it as a tool. The same way everybody turns to Tylenol or Advil, like it's a tool. Even if it has a negative connotation, it's still a tool that people turn to. So it's like recognizing how to take the mask away off and look at it for what it is.
That's deep.
It is.
That's deep. I don't know if I've had any like clashes with like men and like what they believe versus what I believe, but I don't know how I would
Digest that.
yeah, how I would digest that. I mean, I'm a very open-minded person and I tell people all the time that I could have an opinion today and I could change it tomorrow just based on
Exactly.
like what I learn. So there are even like some like Christian teachings. I was like, this is insane. And now I'm like, okay, I can see how I can incorporate this into my life as a tool to use it towards this, right? But that brings up a good point. Like, how do you navigate dating? Because you said something about like attraction. Like you don't attract a certain type of energy because of how you are.
Well, I did a ritual.
Oh God.
I share a ritual.
A ritual.
Well, I mean, you're familiar with this, you
Yeah.
know, listing the qualifications to date you.
I have the qualifications to date me in my bag. I will go get them right now.
I'm saying, though, in the qualifications to date me, or even to associate yourself with me, you have to be spiritually inclined. So it's like I've already been so clear with myself of what I want or what makes sense to me that that's what I'm attract. Now I have to be specific because somebody could be spiritually inclined, but be someone that don't do the work. Like, so it's like we got to be specific.
That was so cool. Because now everyone's probably gonna be like the quote, like what
What are the
list do you have?
qualifications? Yeah.
No, well, for context, like I went to an event that Stephalie was hosting, and it was for Valentine's Day. And one of the things that she was doing was helping us heal just like past like I guess like wounds and traumas we may have with relationships and attracting in new love and what we may want out of a partner. And something that she did was she wanted us to write a list, and the list, two lists. One was the qualifications to date us, and then also our non-negotiables. And one of the reasons why I was so inclined to make this list is because you're not the only woman. I have met several women who have said to me, write your list, because the second you write your list, like I wrote everything down on my list and then I met him and it aligned. And I had never written the list down until that event with you. And actually, no, it was
we did it
interesting.
before.
Yeah, we did it before. But then also intuitively, like 2 days before the event, I woke up and I just started journaling and I was like, okay, what does my higher self do? What businesses does my higher self have? What qualities in a partner does my higher self have? And it was interesting because the same things that I wrote down 3 days ago by myself in my bed were similar, if not a couple more added when I made that list with you. But the key fundamentals like stayed the same.
It's so interesting. Actually, the day after the Let's Selly event.
Yeah.
I met a woman named Toyin. She's so cool. Wherever you are, I hope you have an amazing day. She was like, so with Toyin, I met this woman named Toyin, and Toyin, she has a similar practice. She just words it differently, and I love it. I want to share. She's like, when you go to the grocery store, you know what you're there to get.
Yeah.
And if they don't have it, you'll come up with, you know, an alternative, but like you went there knowing what you wanted. So like when it comes to dating, she calls it like start your grocery list. Like when you're out in the field searching or looking for and shopping, when you're shopping, you know exactly what you want. And if it's not what you want, you won't pick it up, right?
I mean, my shopping list is a little bit more complex because I want star fruit, I want mangoes, I want passion fruit, I want random little things on there.
Yeah, but we're looking at that stance like when it comes to dating, like shopping for characteristics, shopping for kinks and whatever the case may be for you. And that really touched me because dating is like shopping.
So what's on your list?
My list.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, spiritually inclined,
Of course.
on a spiritual journey, doing the work, kind, enthusiastic about travel, has a passport. I know it sounds, I don't know, but
No, it's your list.
no, yeah. I say that because to some people that might be like, it's little or like, what are you talking about? But it's like, you have to be that specific. And what else is on my list? Conscious communicator, like active listener. Did I say conscious communicator?
Yeah, you did.
Look, that means so much to me.
Yeah.
Empathetic, romantic, oh my gosh, hopeless romantic, poetic, creative, and authentic. Oh my God, the list goes on, but
I love that.
yeah, what about yours?
Ooh. Kind. Someone who, and I specifically wrote someone who's not only just kind to me, someone who's kind to animals, someone who's kind to my mother, emotionally intelligent, someone who has a provider mentality. And a lot of people get that confused because obviously, yes, I want a provider. That's on that list too. But with a provider mentality, that means that even when push comes to shove, you know how to get yourself out of a situation. Someone who is emotionally, physically, and mentally strong. A man who has sexual discipline.
I love that.
Creative,
Creative is important.
empathetic, affectionate, loving, romantic.
Affectionate. Did we say that already?
Yeah, someone who sees me for not only who I am outwardly, but someone who accepts and loves me for who I am inwardly.
Right.
A spiritual man or man of God, essentially they mean the same thing. But I don't know if I could be with someone who does
Respectful of your
not.
practice, basically.
Yeah, respectful of my practice. I don't know if I could be with someone who does not believe in a higher power. And someone who's intellectual. Like, I like men that are smart. Like, that's
Yes,
my
mental
thing.
agility.
Mental agility. Ooh.
Mental agility.
Someone who's funny, sociable,
competent.
who accepts what I do, who accepts, like, just who accepts me for being me.
Right. Oh, speaking about that.
Ooh, that's our timer.
Speaking of that, someone who holds a safe container for me to be my most authentic self. Like I've been, this is something that I guess I have to update on my list. And thank you for this conversation. I've encountered men who theoretically claim they could handle my personality, but in practice, like they cannot. And what do? They like taint my authenticity because like now I care about you. Now I'm being mindful of my behavior. When we started, we thought that everything was okay. So it's like it's important for men to really be confident and like honest with themselves with what they could accept in their woman or not. And for me, is accepting my friendly nature and accepting my loving nature and my giving nature and not being threatened by it.
I've attracted a lot of men that, or not, I don't think I've attracted a lot of men that say this, but I have encountered a lot of men who just think that I'm very like tough, which I am, and strong, and that I'm almost like just rough. And the reality is that I'm very docile. I'm non-argumentative. I am literally a crybaby. Like I am so like you know this about me. Like I am just I don't know. I'm literally just an embodiment of love, and I just want to be treated with kindness.
Yeah. And also, what people don't realize, people are going to respond to you based on how you make them feel.
Yeah.
So if you were ever quote unquote hard or whatever, like that's probably like
It's a response
that's
a
the
lot of the
response
times.
and the space they created and the version of you
100%.
that they're eliciting from you. So it's like,
100%. Because at the end of the day, when I do think back at my relationships, every man that I have been with, I just always felt safe and soft with them. Like I was never argumentative or combative really with any of them. I can't see myself being that way with a partner. But I
I'm the
don't know.
opposite.
I feel like I could talk to you forever about this, but we talk about this forever anyways.
yes, yes.
I know we're getting short on time, but I want to just say that I'm so grateful that I was able to hold space for you, and I want to thank you for always holding space for me.
Thank you. Thank you for being you, honestly. Like whatever I could do to continue cultivating that safety you need to be more of you, like I'm here for it. I love you so much, and getting cozy with Josie is definitely the spot to be in or
Aw.
to tune into.
Well, you heard what she said. You heard what she said. I want to thank you guys for getting cozy with us. If you want to tap in with Odyssey, you can follow her at,
Odyssey Transformations on Instagram.
and be sure to keep up with at Get Cozy with Josie's Pod on all social platforms, and myself at Josie Lentner. Until then, I said it already, but I'll say it again. Thanks for getting cozy with us.